Futurama Comic Issue 1. Fry must be pretty new on the job because this is the first time he's ever been to the Planet Express basement. Bender asks why they're here with a bunch of shovels, and Farnsworth says he has a task for them that requires their intelligence and lack of ethics, and surprisingly, Fry says, "Who needs ethics? Not us," and high-fives Bender. Farnsworth says he needs them to dig a giant hole in the floor, but it's a metal floor. For some reason, none of them question how he expects this to be possible with a shovel, and instead ask why he wants that hole. Farnsworth wants that hole to hide one of his inventions from the police, because when he was testing it out last night, he blew up one of Saturn's moons. Bender dismisses it, saying that the planet has too many moons to begin with. I couldn't help but find it amusing how casual he said that horrifying thing he did. Why did he make that thing anyways? What benefit would it give him? If he wanted to use it for threatening so he could take over a planet, he should know that all he'd have to do is go to a primitive planet and take it over with his technology. And running the place would be too much work anyways. There's gotta be a better way to hide that thing than a hole. Can he make it invisible? Send it to another universe? What are his limits? At least it looks too big to fit in the Planet Express, so we can't fly it out of the planet that way. But couldn't he make a shrink ray and use it on it? It's been forever since I had all of the episodes fresh in my mind, so I forget if I'm giving him too much credit. Farnsworth tells them that they'd be considered accessories to the crime if they didn't dig, as an obvious lie to make them do it. Bender talks as if they don't even get paid, which would be illegal, and they'd stop bothering with him then. So he must just be making a joke about how little they get paid. Like I assumed, these aren't just ordinary shovels, so that's why no one questioned this until Fry did. Leela flips a lever on it and shoots a laser at the cement floor. And she said it was the old-fashioned way and says, just like they used to do it in the 2900s. It goes without saying that the dialogue's fantastic in this comic. Then she activates a feature on the shovel that makes it dig automatically, and the rest of them do the same and relax. For some reason, Fry says he can't take it anymore after just a few seconds, and talks as if he's forgotten that he was digging through a cement floor, even though he's indoors. Since he's just a character who says impossibly stupid things for comedy relief. Bender isn't even digging and makes excuses not to out of laziness. And Fry's shovel hits a lunchbox, so it doesn't get stopped by cement that's been weakened by heat, but it gets stopped by a lunchbox. It cuts ahead to a few minutes later where the crew's wondering what could be in the lunchbox. Wouldn't Fry have opened it instantly? Maybe they don't know how to open it without destroying the contents. Zoidberg's somehow excited for food, even though if it was a buried lunchbox, the food in it would probably be long rotten. Bender says that whatever's in the lunchbox goes to Fry, and Fry thanks him, and Bender encourages them to go along with his story. Leela says the lunchbox should be opened by the professor because it's on his property, and he thanks her. He opens it and finds some old 20th century stuff. It was immediately predictable that it'd be revealed to contain stuff from that century, because the main character would be interested in it. Farnsworth thinks the lunchbox is a time capsule. But since when do time capsules take the form of lunchboxes? It's a time capsule from the 70s. And all of the future people think of this as junk despite its historical value. And it turns out this issue was released long before the twist about what Leela really is, because she says she's an alien. Farnsworth says they should all give Fry a fair shake here at least. And I have to assume Bender is just joking when he asks what robot is Fry's best friend, because he wouldn't be that stupid. Fry wants to keep it all, and Bender at least apologizes and calls him Buddy. Then he asks if anyone has an 8-track cassette player and beta VCR, driving home why they'd think of this stuff as junk because they wouldn't get to play the discs. Fry thinks there's too much dialogue to read in the comic book and flips to the end. And as dust comes out of it, too much to make sense, he sees an advertisement for sea monkeys. And there's an unrealistic excuse for why he couldn't have them when he always wanted them as a kid. Bender thinks the offer might still be valid. And conveniently, the address is in that city. They need a buck, And Zoidberg says he found one of their dollars in the laundry this morning. It makes me sad because he wanted to use it for a hot meal instead. And they want it from him for this. Surely they'd have $1 in their wallets. You'd think Fry would have his wallet with him and some money. And wouldn't inflation mean that it wouldn't just cost $1 anymore? Not even Leela points this out and simply goes with him to the Emporium. He's told to feel free to browse around while he's waiting, and he thanks him. And a robot hands him the sea monkeys underneath an unopened box of Action Comics 1-100, which would be worth a lot of money, but is offered to him for a really low price. Even the 20th Century Emporium greatly underestimates how valuable they'd be, somehow. I suppose the comics being worthless could make sense so far into the future if it's because Superman as a property was long since abandoned. You'd think any franchise would lose interest from people after 1,000 years. Then Leela says this all seems very fishy and doesn't want to see Fry get ripped off. The shopkeepers always talked in an annoying way, and eventually Bender proves that his X-ray glasses really work, accusing Fry of wearing ladies' underwear. And he's right. It's weird that he'd be allowed to sell those glasses. Fry's told that the sea monkeys are floating around dead in the water, and Leela tries to comfort Fry and he's rude to her. He's sad because he couldn't even show them one example of how cool his own century was. Wow, it was pretty heartwarming that Farnsworth lied, but we already have an example of how cool the 20th century was. You! Does it make you feel better? Then that's all that matters, isn't it? Even if he was being sarcastic, him not telling him it was an insult is better than nothing. He's arbitrarily told that trying to flush them would be dangerous, and is told to just dump them in the waste container for gamma radiation, which has a label on it saying no animal matter. The so-called scientist forgets about that label for the sake of advancing the plot, and Fry dumps the sea monkeys in it. We've already got scientists close to curing Alzheimer's in this century, so there's no chance that Farnsworth would actually be senile. He's just always been this crazy. The next morning, Leela once again comforts Fry on the fact that things didn't work out yesterday. I forget how nice she can be. Fry fortunately apologizes for being a jerk, and Bender makes me smile with his joke. He asks about his feelings, and then randomly says they just want to let them know that Fry's an idiot and Leela's a sappy know-it-all, and he laughs. He's mean, but it caught me off guard in a funny way. They're told to come see something, and Amy says that science gone awry about a castle of time cards that doesn't look any more impressive than an actual house of cards. Then Zoidberg says he has something even more amazing to show them, and reveals that somehow Fry's sea monkeys are alive instead of destroyed by the toxic waste they were dumped into. Which is obviously what would actually happen. I'm not an expert on gamma radiation, but it seems to me that they'd just be dissolved like they fell into acid. This would only make sense if the so-called gamma radiation was actually magical, from an alien planet where magical stuff exists for potions. He could have gotten it from another planet because of the Planet Express, so it's possible. They got bigger from a mutation, and Zoidberg found them while taking out the trash and looking through it for leftovers. Fry thinks gamma radiation never hurt anyone, naturally being confused because these things are still alive. And Farnsworth wears a hazmat suit he got out of nowhere and says he needs to bathe in chlorine. This worries all of them as the sea monkeys are rapidly growing out of the goldfish bowl. So they need a big tank instead. And Fry feeds them bananas, probably because he's an idiot. They did mutate, so maybe they got different dietary needs. He lets them sleep in the kiddie pool because they had a big day, and agrees to let Zoidberg jump in it. He wakes up the next morning and assumes they vanished because of a dingo attack because of the movies. Then he notices that the sea monkeys have grown into giants and started terrorizing the city. And the reporter says that this gives new meaning to the term jumbo shrimp, and makes me wonder if this is where the writer got the idea for the story. I really wish it was explained that the gamma radiation was just a magic potion from aliens, because then I take the story a little more seriously instead of finding this forced. The oddly chipper reporter jokes that she'd like to eat the sea monkeys, and Farnsworth says he can blast them with his de-radiation gun, and says that testing it would be too risky. I think he's just too apathetic. He just doesn't care. If he's a genius inventor, he should know better most of the time, and Leela wouldn't be smarter than him. It'd make more sense if he knew he was making mistakes and just doesn't care because he likes to see the chaos it causes because he's bored. So Rick makes more sense because he's making mistakes from an explicit lack of interest in morality, not just because, oh, he's just an idiot, somehow. But this guy's a lot of charm because he acts kooky. Surprisingly, it's only Zoidberg who says he won't let them hurt his new friends, when I'd expect Fry to have an emotional attachment to them still too, especially since he's an idiot. Fry just tries to reason with him that they're eating the city. I'm at least proud of him for not caring about them anymore. The Planet Express flies where the sea monkeys are, and Fry happily tries to fire at its former pets. It's impressive how they're not forcing drama by having him not want to kill them just because they were his pets and from the 20th century. Instead, he's just happy to try to save the city. Nothing happens when he tries to fire at them because Bender left the safety on. How does Bender not know anything about guns? I guess he's just lying, since he's even less subtle about his apathy for morality than Rick is. So everyone has to eject from the Planet Express in their rocket chairs with parachutes. He ends up falling and bounces off something, amusing me by saying that pain sucks. And he tells Zoidberg he has to save Fry from being eaten by the sea monkey. Zoidberg going through the dumpster means that Bender got to find the back of the ad for the sea monkeys, which says they can take them back for a refund. That's his plan? Somehow Fry says he isn't unsatisfied with them. And predictably, when the truck shows up, the shopkeeper says he can't haul the shrimp away. Apparently, there were directions about keeping them away from gamma radiation, even back in the 20th century. I guess he's referring to new directions from the future. Fortunately, he reveals a needle that can shoot a laser and knocked out the giant sea monkey. And even though it fell, Fry's okay because the sea monkey's tongue gave him a soft landing. I feel bad for him here. The shopkeeper pointlessly thanks them for their business even though he gave them a refund. And for some reason the mayor wants to thank Farnsworth for saving his city. But it was clearly the guy from the shop that did that. The Planet Express just got grabbed by the sea monkeys. The mayor gives Farnsworth the bill for what it'll cost to clean the sea monkeys off the streets and dispose of them. He's getting the bill because they checked with animal control and the sea monkey was registered to the Planet Express address. And to be fair, it was Farnsworth who told Fry to dump them in gamma radiation in the first place. So since he caused the whole mess, he does deserve to get punished for it. Fry had put their address on the sea monkey tags because they might have gotten lost, even though they weren't supposed to leave their water. Couldn't Farnsworth easily use his technology to get rid of the sea monkey carcasses himself? He doesn't necessarily need to accept paying a bill. He can clean the city for free. Leela then gets an idea of how to solve the problem so that Planet Express won't have to file for bankruptcy. I didn't think the bill would do that. It turns out Zoidberg is going to eat the remains of the sea monkeys. And Amy even lampshades that this is like cannibalism for Zoidberg's species. Well, not really because Zoidberg's an alien. But logically, there's no way he'd be able to eat all of this stuff before it rot all in one sitting because the stomach would get full. They might be able to get away with putting the food in the fridge when he's full. Or rather, a big fridge separate from their normal one. There's still no explanation for how they managed to bring all of the sea monkeys to Zoidberg from the city. I guess they did it with giant cranes. This issue is about Fry's 20th century monkeys from a lunchbox he dug up under Planet Express when he was trying to dig a hole to hide a giant laser for Farnsworth, becoming giants because Farnsworth told him to dump the sea monkeys in gamma radiation. Fry's purpose is to be the impossibly stupid one, so you'd think Fry would be the one who would do that. There's no reason they wouldn't just get destroyed by being dumped in it. Unless it was actually a magic potion from an alien planet that only falsely got labeled as gamma radiation. They certainly wouldn't be brought back to life otherwise, even if they were made to start growing a lot. Farnsworth must have told him to do this just because he thought flushing them would be too boring, and he had total faith that he would survive the ordeal. It's confusing that the scientists would be dumber than Fry, but it was an entertaining story with great dialogue the whole time. I just wish the art wasn't so washed out. Later issues in the comic look exactly like the show. The art style looks like the show. It's just that the coloration is washed out for the earlier issues.